Audio's good. Facebook is good. Waiting for YouTube. Waiting for YouTube. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Quarantine Hangs episode... Wait, what episode is it? I can't remember. 12. Right. Episode 12. What's up? It's Jer. Quarantine Hangs episode 12. Thank you to Marv for the daily riff today. Today's a good one. We got Terry Ryan, Newfoundland legend, interviewed by Steve earlier last week. He went on pretty long. So we're going to bust his interview up into 2 segments. So we're going to play the first half on this episode, and we're going to play the second half probably next week. I got a trip out to Nova Scotia at the end of the week to take my mom to see my sister who has a new baby, and my sister is getting ready to go back to work as a nurse. Her husband is also a nurse, so my mom is going out there to provide child care. So I'm going to drive her out there, and then I'm going to fly home. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. Wish us both luck. Wish me luck. Wish my mom luck. Wish my sister luck. We're gonna run the gamut out to Nova Scotia this at the end of this week. So this is going to be the only Quarantine Hangs this week. No episode on Thursday, and you won't see me again until next Tuesday once I'm back from the trip. And yeah, I like that riff today, Marv. Good job. It's a good little headbanger. Got my cup of Joe here. I was feeling tired today. I did a bunch of work in the garden this morning, and now I'm all pooped. Where the fuck is everybody today? Renee, Maxine, Chris, the usual suspects. I'm keeping it short today. I got nothing to talk about. I saw one article today, actually, that I thought was fucking hilarious. It says, happy hour comes nearly every day for social drinkers as coronavirus keeps them home. Drinking is way up as people look to cheer up or relieve anxiety during pandemic lockdowns, but experts warn against excess. This is just a prime candidate for a no shit Sherlock situation here. So what have we learned? People are drinking more. Fucking shocker. Experts recommend don't drinking too much. Fucking shocker. I'm not going into the article. I just thought it was hilarious. This is how desperate we are for news right now. That this is making headlines. Is people are drinking a lot and doctors say don't. Cool. I'm gonna make my job easy today. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna spin a B-side from Sittin' Heavy that no one's ever heard before, which I know you guys will be into. I actually went listening to a bunch of the B-sides from True Rockers and from Sittin' Heavy today, and was marveling at the wide array of awesomeness and shittiness. It was this cavalcade of mixed emotions listening to all these different songs that should have and shouldn't have made the record. So yeah, let's just get to this track. I'm going to jam out this B-side here from Sittin' Heavy. It's called Honky Tonk. I think that was just a working title. We hadn't maybe there is an actual name for it, but in my computer system, I've got really bad file management. So I've got it in there as Honky Tonk, which was just the working title of the track. I'm going to play that song. I'm going to come back, probably say some other bullshit, go to the interview, and then I'm going to go do this. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. We're going to cut to this track, and I'll see you in a second.
I don't
you go. Honky Tonk B-side off of Sittin' Heavy. As you may have seen... Oh, shit. Don't need to listen to that. As you may have seen on the screen cap I was showing you there's another B-side that we haven't played yet on the show. We played Rolling Thunder a couple episodes ago, and I just played you Honky Tonk there. And there's another B-side, a very polarizing B-side called Pool Party. Maybe we'll play that another time. I'm not even going to say anything about that fucking song. I love it, but I don't love it. It's such a weird one. Marv's dad thinks it's the best song we've ever written, and it's not. But it's certainly not the worst. So there's that. Anyways, on this week's episode, we have a very interesting character. His name's Terry Ryan. He hails from Newfoundland. Understand Newfoundland. Gotta fucking not say that wrong. Otherwise, they'll fucking drag you out to the island and beat the shit out of you. Wonderful, wonderful place in Canada. If you've never been to Newfoundland, you need to go out there and check it out at some point, because it's just some of the best people in the world. It's one of the best places in the world. We were lucky enough to go out there twice last year. I think it was last year. Does anyone know what fucking year it is? We were out there twice. We played a club show and we played a festival show, and we just were shown there's the best hospitality ever. Steve made friends with Terry Ryan. He actually was on Spittin' Chicklets a couple weeks ago. He was a great guest on there, so we decided to have him on here. And Steve did the interview. Like I said, he had a lot to say, so we busted it up into two parts. I'm going to play the first part now. We'll play the next part maybe next week. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. It's a short episode this week from my standpoint. I'm beat. I was in the garden all yesterday and today getting my you can see it all back there, right? There's my there, right? There, back there. Those are all the babies. It's not weed, okay? It's not fucking weed. It's tomatoes and kale. Got to make that food for when the fucking planet runs out of food. Here we go. Steve interviewing Terry Ryan, former 8th round overall draft pick for the Montreal Canadiens. He had a very, very short little stint over 3 years with the Montreal Canadiens, and he kind of was one of those players that bounced up and down from the AHL and the NHL and all the places in between in junior and everything. One of those players that just didn't end up making a mainstay in the NHL, which is just one of those things that happens. It's one of the fucking hardest leagues ever to get into and maintain. So he's got an interesting story. We're going to get to that now. And I'll see you afterwards. I'll find something fucking... Maybe we'll play Pool Party to end the episode. Who fucking knows? Anyways, here we go. Here's Steve.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest on Quarantine Hangs is a man who was born and raised in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland, the only child born to his lovely parents, Gail and Terry Sr. He spent most of his younger years living abroad, moving around, chasing his professional hockey dream. He was drafted 8th overall by the Montreal Canadiens in the 1995 NHL entry draft, the highest player ever drafted from Newfoundland. That's right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It might not be rated 3 months. We got a guy rated about 10.
Okay, well, for now.
Yeah.
He's gotten into acting since his professional hockey days have finished, and now he's back living in Mount Pearl with his lovely family, and he's about as much of a no-bullshit Newfoundlander as you can ever imagine. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Terry Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, Steve, and I hope you're holding up well in all this and your family.
Thanks. You too. I wanted to recount how we met. We met, basically, I heard you on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, which I loved hearing you talk about all your shit, your background, all your stories. And we were actually in the next week after that going to Newfoundland for our first time. So I just decided to kind of hit you up on Instagram on a whim, and you kind of, I don't think we met that first time, but we were back in Newfoundland a couple weeks later, and you came out to that show, and you had me down to the basement, and had a good hang.
The timing of it, I look, it's coincidental, maybe the word, but because that was the case for you. For me, I knew Monster Truck songs, but I was after getting an album right before that, and my buddies, I knew them from playing PlayStation.
Right.
And then the connection, obviously, with the Maple Leafs. And then I was reading, and then I'd watched a couple of videos right in that time frame. And you guys are big for, a lot of, I'm guessing 6 or 7 years, I would think. So For me, it was ironic the way that, you had kind of found out about my career and I found out about yours. You decided to call me, which was great. And, Steve mentioned my basement. For those who don't know, so we had a pretty legendary basement, at least in Newfoundland. We had a lot of, my dad was a huge collector, and we're both, that rubbed off on me, and we're both, pro hockey players from a small place. There aren't many players that made it to the top level in Newfoundland ever, under 30, and maybe even under 20. So I ended up coming along after and doing a lot of the same things that my dad would do, which would be collect a puck from every building he played in, a jersey from every team, and try to go around and get sticks from the players you play against. For example, I played one game against Wayne Gretzky, but I graciously asked him for a stick, and he complied. My dad did the same with Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr. So, we were just, and I think it goes back to liking history more than anything. And that, my dad has a history degree, but not what you would think. It's not like he sits there and studies philosophy, although he's interested in it. But, to me, anything's history. So, like folklore, my degree is in folklore. So, mine the two, you get the stories of Rocket Richard and the sweater, or even go back Cyclone Taylor, the history of hockey. Doesn't even have to be hockey, but, I'm just saying there's a whole lot. My dad's hockey knowledge, that world is way beyond what he experienced. And so is mine because of the things that we collected. And just like, we're connected to you that way. I mean, that's the reason you phoned. You were intrigued by the whole thing,
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? All this talk about these jerseys hanging up reminds me, I got a bone to pick with you. I sent you a jersey. You said you were going to send one back, and I'm still waiting.
Wow, I didn't send that yet.
No.
Good thing you brought it up.
Yeah.
Good thing you brought it up. I went in one ear, and then we did put it up on the wall. It's right there on the wall.
Yeah.
Yours might be the only non-professional hockey player jersey, but that's why it adds a professional musician, of course. And nothing against the music part at all. I would have lots up there. I just don't know many people. Jim Cuddy, actually. I got one from him from the Music Counts Juno Cup game, and that means something.
Yeah,
so
I'm in good company at least.
You're in good company, and I will send that out. I even know what jersey it's going to be.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just wanted to point that out.
I'm glad you did. I never would have remembered.
So growing up in Newfoundland, Newfoundland is somewhat of a bit of a mystery to a lot of Canadians. It's so far out there. It's kind of its own island. Obviously you had the support from your parents in playing hockey growing up, but did being in Newfoundland present different challenges in trying to take your hockey to the next level?
It did. This is where I was fortunate to have a father who had been through it. I honestly, in the early 90s, Newfoundland, we were going through a cod moratorium, which means, codfish was our biggest industry, and that got taken away. And people were pretty pissed off because really most of it wasn't really our fault. I won't get into all that because it'll take forever. But if anybody's curious, just look into what happened in Newfoundland in the late 80s, early 90s. And there's a lot of unrest. And on top of that, so there weren't many, all the best hockey players as well stayed here. There were great players that would have definitely been pro now. Andy Sullivan's one of them. Google that name, Andy Sullivan. At 31 years old, he ended up getting called up. A couple of planes couldn't get in. So the St. John's Maple Leafs, Toronto's Prime team, were playing here, and they needed a couple of players. So they said, let's call the Newfoundland Senior League. One of the players they called was Andy Sullivan. He played 31 games. I think he had 15 or 16 points. He was their main face-off guy. So clearly, Andy, and people had talked about him for years, and he was past his prime, but he still did well. So, in the Newfoundland Senior League at the time, people laugh when I say senior, but that just means over 20. It's just like pro. It's pro age. It's senior amateur, they call it. But when you're paying money and when you're flying in around here, the places like Gander and Clarenville and Stephenville and Corner Brook, not to mention St. John's, but in all those smaller communities, there wasn't really as much to do at night. That's, I assume, because they would pack it, and there was a community feel to it all. So, for years, even in recent history, I'd go out and play for the Gander Flyers or Corner Brook Royals, games Friday, Saturday, sell it out, sell jerseys, whatever it's going to be. It was a business. So a lot of people were just from Newfoundland, were just playing that. And because of the moratorium and because we had, and it was before It was before, even in things like music, Great Big Sea, say, or even in film, Republic of Doyle came along. But before this, there was a lot of talent here. Point being, I guess the 90s, the more I talk about it, seemed to be a surgence in Newfoundland that brought it to the forefront. But before that, I mean, we still had great story writers, songwriters, TV. We still had our own culture that's celebrated today in Great Big Sea. But I mean, if you go back just before that, there was the Wonderful Grand Band. There was Ron Hines, Lion Fancy. You can go back, Aaron, Sons of Aaron. They were all there. They just weren't popular on a global level. And I guess the internet we have to thank, as well as some good marketing tourism ploys in the 90s, because we had to. Point being, in the early 90s, we had a defeatist attitude. I did not think that I could ever play in the NHL. It didn't matter how good I was here, because no one was there. You know, my dad and the people had come around in the 70s, and Tony White comes to mind at 30 goals for Washington. There was a lightning. I shouldn't say lightning in a bottle, but there was definitely Newfoundland tapped into the hockey culture forefront. Howie Meeker was here in the 70s. There's a big hockey name. Maybe that's a reason. But in the 70s, we had a lot. In the 80s, virtually none. Virtually none. We had a couple. Darryl Weems played one game. I'm trying to think. I don't want to be ignorant, but we didn't have many players that came into prominence in the 80s. A few left over, like Dad's age, that came into the early 80s. But anyway, and then in 91, 92, John Slaney got picked for Team Canada, a junior player, and he ended up going 9th overall, and he scored the winning goal in Saskatoon on a shot from the point that hit something. He was a defenseman, it bounced in. Slane's ended up going 9th overall, and that's when that's exactly when I was coming into my own in 12, 13 years old. John Slaney did that, and I was like, wow, I saw John play with the Celtics just 2 years ago. The Brother Rice Celtics. You know, I saw him play, and he was great, but there was all kinds of other good players, not taken away from John. He was unreal. But then a few players did go to the OHL, and they started doing all right. And then I went away, and I did all right. And so
let's expand on that. Let's expand on that.
Yeah.
You went away. Sorry, I'll let you finish your point.
Oh, yeah. I was kind of branching off as I digress, as you know, but you asked me, you know, earlier, no, there was a whole lot of reasons that I did not think that hockey was an option. I wanted it to be. I still daydreamed about playing in the NHL, but I don't know, man. We had this defeatist attitude in Newfoundland. And, you know, you hear the Newfie jokes and it becomes part of it, right? Like Polish jokes almost. I don't want to, a lot of them were in terms of endearment. I just mean it was maybe subconscious. I'm an only child. That's another thing, you know. So, and I changed schools a little bit. I went to an all-boys school until I was 6 or 7, or in grade 6 or 7, which can be a good thing, but I just mean I hadn't really even met girls yet. There was a lot of reasons that I was shy and an introvert. Publicly. To my friends, I was what you see now. But I certainly wasn't into public speaking or any of that, and I did not think that I could go and do well at hockey. Enter the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, the biggest minor hockey tournament in the world, 150 teams. I go to that. Mount Pearl are taking on Team Switzerland, and I'm getting 6 goals. And I still don't know. Now I'm starting to get scouts come down, and now I'm starting to see the write-ups in the paper that I'm rated with Alan McCauley as one of the best players in Canada. So I guess after all that, and my dad in my ear, it convinced me I was probably good enough. The best opportunity in his mind was in Quesnel, BC, for many, many reasons. The draft out west to major juniors when you're 14, first of all, and Tri-City sweetened the pot by giving my dad some money. Now, he was a scout. They made him a scout. It wasn't this like cash in a bag thing, which I'm sure happens in some places. I'm going to plead ignorance. I know it happened to a lot of my buddies. I'm not going to say who, when, or where. But for me, it was actually legit. They could sweeten the pot, and my dad was a hockey mind. So, and he actually came out and worked with Sheldon Surrey, who you would all know. Ryan Marsh. There's a few, though, that came from Quesnel that my dad worked with, or he straight up scouted like Ryan Marsh. So
you're in BC.
All those things together.
So you're in BC in your early teens, and then in 91, it was in 91 you went to BC, and then you got drafted to the Tri-Cities in Washington State. Now that must have seemed like a different world, because at that age you're moving to a different side of the country, a different country in general, down to the U.S., and also, not to mention, at that time in Seattle, which you were very close to, there was like that was a crazy hotbed of music. going on at the time. What was that like, experiencing that as a teenager?
You would have loved it because I'm guessing that Monster Truck can't speak for everybody. I'm guessing, listening to your music, that you guys would have loved to experience what I experienced then. I was always a music lover. I'm an only child. My dad, if his friends were around on Friday nights, that's where the Fridays comes in with me and my dad. When I was young, again, he would let me spin some records as they were drinking. He was playing senior hockey then, just back from pro. And I got into it. And, I guess you either like music or not. Some people are like, well, I like going for walks in the park because my dad did it. I don't mean that. I mean, as soon as I heard the Beatles, I didn't need my dad. He was an avenue. He was the vehicle. But then the same thing happened for Little Richard. And then, all kinds of music. Blind Lemon Jefferson from the 20s. Like, I just started to get right into it. And I think it's a mix of my love for history, and I do love a good beat and a good sound. And both, where better does that come together than in music? Poetry, I find you can read it. It can be beautiful, but you can read it. But then, listen to Born to Run. To me, that's poetic. Born to Run could be one of my favorite love songs. So when you start, and I was thinking like that when I was 9 or 10. So that, and we were middle class. I didn't have all the best toys. I had video games, but I wasn't really into them. I didn't have motorbikes or any of that. But I had a 3,000 album collection that I could have at my own. I could have to do whatever I want. My own judgment. I could take those out. I could do whatever. The only thing is that my dad wouldn't. I had to treat them properly, and that took about 2 weeks because I fucked up a couple times. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I scratched his original copy of Sgt. Pepper. I'm not making this up. I love the Beatles. That's my favorite album. It still is. But so music was a huge part of my life. So I go to Tri-Cities then, and the grunge movement is taking place almost part and parcel for when I arrived on the plane. It was wild. Got there when I first got out west. Smells Like Teen Spirit was just hitting. I was in Quesnel again because Quesnel, geographically, Tri-Cities is in Washington State, about 5 hours south of the border, and that's the BC border. So Quesnel is about 8 hours, 10 hours north of that BC border. It's actually northern BC, but it's actually right in the center. If you were to draw a dot in the center of BC, that's where Quesnel is, that region, the Caribou region. So I went to Quesnel because Tri-City drafted me, right? But I still got 2 years before I can actually play a full year in the Western Hockey League. But they can take me down on the weekends, which is what they end up doing, right? If we play on Thursday, say, and Tuesday in Quesnel, they're going to take me down that weekend. Some weekends, if we only played Saturday, they take me down. You'll notice if you look at my stats, my second year in Quesnel, I only played 28 games with Quesnel Millionaires as a 15-year-old. But I was down in Tri-Cities practicing a lot. I played like 3 games. That was the maximum. But anyway, so I had time on my hands. So I'm going down there. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, though. The song, I don't care what you say, if you were around that time and Smells Like Teen Spirit happened, and right before that, I'm trying to think what was on the charts. Michael Jackson's like Bad, like Poison, Every Rose Is Its Thorn. Right before that, even Guns N' Roses were unbelievable. That album with the Use Your Illusions were coming out. That was all great, but when that hit, that sound, that attitude, when Smells Like Teen Spirit, the first time I saw it, whoa! And it wasn't just me. It blew the doors off for everybody. Little did I know in Quesnel that this was happening 6 or 7 hours south of me. 8 hours. I didn't realize that.
That's
so then
wild.
I get to Tri-Cities, and I'm like, holy shit, I can go see these guys? And then so that was big. I'd never heard Pearl Jam. I wasn't into it. They were just coming on the scene as well. But that song blew it all away, right? And I've got over here, I got a great music knowledge, but it's all of my dad's albums. Everything else is radio stuff, and I'm aware of it. I listen. But I was not aware of what was about to happen or that all these bands were from Seattle. So I go over to see Nirvana. And we did. I wish I'd appreciated it more because I can't tell you much beyond Smells Like Teen Spirit. And to be honest, Cobain was what's the word? He was a lot like Lennon, where he'd sometimes just, I don't mean to, maybe I'm wrong, but sometimes he'd be a jackass just to be a rebel or something. It was one of those
eccentric, kind of an eccentric.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm intrigued that if he wasn't like that, though, I often say about nerves in hockey, like if I wasn't like that, it wouldn't have got me there. So, if he wasn't that kind of person, and when you read into Cobain, he was deep and he had vast knowledge. He might not have been formally educated, but he loved the Beatles, for example. I remember, actually, we were going over there. I don't even know if you know this, but he was, and he didn't want to take any credit either. And at the show, I remember him referring to that he got the idea of that song through More Than a Feeling. Now, play the chord progression and for More Than a Feeling in your head. Just speed it up a little bit, and it's very similar. And he never needed to say that, but because he didn't steal it. But play both in your head, and one, you'd be like, yeah. And that's the first thing he said. Like, he was almost being, they say this is good. Give the credit to Boston, like kind of thing. I remember that about it. Now, he probably launched into Come As You Are in Bloom, all of it, but I didn't really know. I was just there in the room, kind of partying kind of thing.
Wow.
But, through that, I didn't know Pearl Jam were from there. And then when we went to Seattle, to be honest, at that time, Eddie Vedder, I think within Seattle, Pearl Jam were bigger. Worldwide, and I'm shaving a few months in either direction, and it was completely different. Just for a little time that I first went there, I got the impression that within Seattle, Eddie Vedder was definitely more prominent. Now, did I know Alice in Chains were from there, were going to play? No. Soundgarden? No idea. Not only that, you're going to laugh. At the time, there was a rapper, a really novelty kind of rapper named Sir Mix-a-Lot. He had that Baby Got Back song with the ass. He's from Tacoma.
Wow.
So everything, and I have no doubt, given the time when that came out, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you could say, that certain bands were probably fortunate that the British invasion was happening when it was happening? Like the Stones and the Beatles were going to come out of it. Even Jerry and the Pacemakers, but you're starting to get to like some bands that were probably the Trogs. Who knows if they would have gotten noticed? So that's the feeling I got in Seattle. Like, of course, Sir Mix-a-Lot. He's rapping before Soundgarden. And that's the other thing. It wasn't all, grunge music opening up for grunge music. It was anything. It was.
Wow.
I remember going to the Gorge in Oregon, and there was like, there would be folk, then there would be grunge. Because grunge, no one really knew what it was yet. I didn't think it was a word.
It was kind of being developed, yeah.
Yes. So I think what I'm getting to is that I was there to see it being created. Grunge was being produced in front of my eyes, and I was just a music fan. Years later, I realized what was happening, and so be it. I feel very fortunate that Tri-City's where it is.
That's unbelievable, man. The timing of that, holy shit. So you spent a few years ripping it up in the WHL over there. Your stats were incredible, and you end up 95 entry draft, went 8th overall. Was that expected? Like, were any teams talking to you before the draft? Did you think you were ever headed anywhere else, or did you? It was
weird. And first, I'll tell you what else happened during that time that a lot of people don't realize. Because I left home. And then I ended up going 8th overall 4 or 5 years later, and people were like, that makes sense. He was big here. But it didn't, though. I had to change everything. I left as a finesse centerman. That, again, I had to be finesse because there was no hitting in Pee Wee here.
Right.
So I didn't know anything about, I'm an only child. I skipped a grade. I went to a rough school. So I got in a lot of fist fights. Being the best hockey player. I was the only hockey player in my grade, let alone the best. I'm one of the best. I'm definitely the best in the province for my age at that time. And I'm in a school that doesn't really, they kind of frown on that. And I'm as big as everybody, but I'm younger. So I got a lot of fights. But I was anti-bully. When I say I got in fights, I really mean it. I'm not trying to be a champion or a hero. Much like on the ice. What was I doing on the ice, really, if you look at it? I was
standing up for yourself. You're not instigating.
Yeah. Right. It's not often that I'm grabbing Martin St. Louis and kicking the shit out of him. That did never happen, right? Because that's a bully.
Yeah.
Right? But even a lot of tough guys weren't bullies because they just go within their own weight class. I can name a few, but I don't want to be poison on people. I can name a few. Just do your homework, and you can figure out who some of the bullies are. But anyway, and so I had to add that. So I left and played in Quesnel, and that was the biggest difference. Not only getting used to fighting, but hitting. And no one gave me free passes. When I was 14 in Quesnel, I had like 200 penalty minutes. And I didn't want a free pass. I wanted to be, and I almost overcompensated. But now, I go to Tri-City. Now here, I'm by far the fastest in the province. It's because I'm bigger than everyone. I'm a decent skater, and even in pro. To play in the NHL level, it's hard for anybody to say that any of those people are bad skaters. They might say it about a tough guy. Let's say Jody Shelley, man. Because I know that was a knock. But Jody Shelley can skate around. He was in rec hockey. And I don't know, some of them don't have great hands, and really they come back and play rec hockey, and they're not as adapted fucking going shelf as you think they are, but they can all skate.
Yeah.
All of them, right? They can skate. And even if they look like they're skating bad, they're getting there faster and more agile than you are. No offense. But anyway, but within that world of the good skaters and the pro players, I quickly realized I need to work on this. I needed agility. Like, there's guys that are just natural. Look at Paul Coffey. He didn't even look like... For me to go as fast as a lot of other people, I could do it, but I was expending more energy. So now I got to change that. That's not going to work. And that was before so many specific trainers and everything, too. So I had a great agent. I had Mike Barnett, and he would send me... Mike Barnett would pay. He was Gretzky's agent. I didn't have to pay for anything. Not every agent does that. He'd just, where do you want to go? I'd say Laura Stam. I went with, a lot of people don't know, with Darren McCarty, who scored a huge goal for the Detroit Red Wings. He's the same kind of player I am. Look at Darren. He couldn't skate that well either. He could get there. Look at the big goal he gets for the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup final. He's lumbering, but he's doing it, and he's making the moves. But that's what I mean. I could get like that if I straight up, I put myself up there with most kids my age. But I learned playing against the older players, I just didn't have to go left as much because I was beating guys going right because they weren't as big as me. Now I realized, so that was happening. And by the time I got to Tri-Cities, I was getting to be a tougher centerman. My first year, I was 16 in Tri-Cities. Decent numbers for an underager. I had 33 points, 176 minutes, 22 fights. I was definitely respectable, one of the better young prospects, but not blue chip. It wasn't blue chip yet. I was like, okay, I think some people expected me to get a little bit more because I did just lead my junior team in scoring 2 years in a row. The second year, I only played half the schedule. Like, they're going, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to go, okay, like, relax. But when I get there, there's another great player on my team that is a great centerman, and he's a great, and he had the complete opposite, upbringing of hockey to me, Damon Blankow, who ends up going 5th overall. Damon wasn't drafted, though. He wasn't a huge prospect. He just was a late bloomer, late for the Western League draft, whereby, Tri-City took him down there, but he wasn't expected to be this great player or anything, but all of a sudden, and he's got a late birthday. That means you get 2 years before. I had 1 year in the, most school goes by December 31st. The NHL draft goes by September 10th. I think, and Lanks is born on the 22nd.
Okay.
So he had that extra year, and he's doing well. He gets like 40 points his first year, like 60-something the next year. And this is when I come in, and my coach, Bob, now I'm the prodigy, though. I'm coming into Tri-City, okay, we flew this guy out west. Lanks, they happened to get lucky on, right? But I'm coming out. Now we're both going in, but he's had 2 great years in Tri-Cities, and, the first year going out. So he's the first-line center. I end up being, by the end of the year, a second-line center. I'm 16. Like I said, those numbers are decent. But when I go back to camp, now I'm expecting to be the number 1 center. But I know it. I'm not greedy either, and I'm not selfish, and I'm certainly easy to talk to even then. If I see it, and again, that's Dad. Because he'd always be like, don't snap. If you're going to snap every time you get benched or something, you're never making it anywhere because it's going to happen. You're going to be on 10 teams before you're 16. So I was never one of those, and I could see it happening in the teams he coached, and I saw guys screw themselves by attitude because he coached a junior team, and I'm going, no, I'm not going to do that. And I knew Lanks was good. So, and the coach, Bob Laux, he said, did you ever think about playing left wing with Damon? You're a little bit bigger. Damon was about 5'10", 175. Fight the word devil. He's not scared. A little bit smaller, and he said, Damon's just such a good pivot. He goes, you could be there. You could pass it to him. I'm sure you'd be set up. And he said, I don't want to tell you to fight, but he probably, it's probably going to be better if I can put someone there that'll fight for him. Not for him, but you know what I mean. A lot of guys are going to go for the lead score. Someone that can actually, be on his skill level. I'm like, okay. So I started out, sure enough, I had 4 hat tricks in the first 16 games. Lanks ended up leading the league in scoring, and it was a lockout year. So this was the other thing. It was a lockout year. My draft year was a lockout year, which people might go, yeah, who cares? We cared because all the best players were sent back to junior. All of a sudden, like Ryan Smith wasn't supposed to be in my league, or Jeff Friesen, or Brian McCabe, or Zdeno Chara, or Sheldon Surek. Right? The Quebec League wasn't supposed to have Alexander Daig, or Martin Biron, or Christian Dubé. The OHL wasn't supposed to have Mark Savard, or actually Mark was in my year, but Jeff O'Neill, or Bill Bowler. You could go down the list. So now we're playing against better competition, but it just worked out, and we were magic together. And there was, on our team, was a lot of young guys. I mean, Kamloops, for example, Jerome McGinley played on Kamloops. They won the Memorial Cup. He was kind of a victim of them having such a good team. No one realized how good he was yet, right? The year I had 110 points in junior, my draft year, he had 70. Great player, though. I'm sure he would have had more on my team. Yeah. But he's playing for a Memorial Cup champion with Darcy Tucker and Nat Dominic Kelly and Rocket Rod Stevens and Zach Boyd or whoever it might be, right? And Shane Doan was also on that team. So they were a great team. Wow. I outscored both of them, though, my draft year because me and Lanks didn't come off the ice. So I don't want to sell myself short. I'm just saying there's all different. So it ended up kind of working out. But now, a lot of people that didn't tune into it, by the end of that season, I got 25 fights. I'm a left winger. I never played it in my life. Now I'm getting used to getting the puck and giving it back to a guy who's faster and better skater. And that had never happened. And I got to suck it up. I got to be humble that way and be a left winger because I know I'm not a great centerman, but boy, what a left winger did I become? Because I'm playing with Lanks and he's feeding me. I get 50 goals, right? Up from 16 the year before. Wow. I get 110 points up from 33. So, and I'm working on my skating the whole time. Now, people here, I don't think, realize that. That yes, it worked out like they thought it was going to. And, growing up, they knew I was going to go somewhere, I think. People around here had more confidence than I did. But 8th might have been high. A lot of people weren't surprised, but I don't think they realized the metamorphosis that had to take place between point A and point B. And that was, a long road. But, I came out of it. I got drafted as, I won't say a completely different player because I still had to use offensive skills and I was there, but I had all these categories that I couldn't do before. And I thought I was going to be one of the best centermen in the world. And clearly I wasn't.
Wow. Well, that's a crazy story through that, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's long.
Yeah, we're gonna just leave things there. That was it goes on. He goes on for another half part of that episode. So we'll come back to that next week. I got nothing for today, man. There's nothing going on in the goddamn world. Everyone's just sitting at home, fucking chilling. Yeah, I'm gonna find something here to go out with. Anyone ever see that video where it's like a supercut of everyone saying the titles of the movies? It's like everyone saying the title of the movie in the movie. I gotta find that. Hold on a second. I don't know why I'm such a sucker for shit like this, but like to me this is just like title bout. Is that what this is? Like I'll find it. 150 times actors were forced to say the title of the movie that they're in. Yeah, this is it. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, that's long.
So you got
there. The second half of the interview started playing right there. Hold on a second. There we go. I'm leaving you guys with this because I got nothing to say. We're going to be on Cherry Chat at the end of this week, I think. That'll be fun. Our boys in Blackstone Cherry are doing their own Quarantine Kangs type deal. And me and Marv, I think, are going to be on next week. So that'll be fun. But for a little levity and for a little chill, here's Title Bout. And this is the kind of silly shit I love.
So that's it? What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Hot tub time machine. 50-50.
Angels in the outfield.
From dusk till dawn.
Bend it like Beckham.
Earth girls are easy.
Peggy Sue got married.
Big. Double jeopardy.
Double indemnity.
Bride of Frankenstein.
The third man.
Witness for the prosecution.
A streetcar named Desire.
Ace in the hole.
On the waterfront.
Some like it hot.
To kill a mockingbird.
Somebody up there likes me. The man who shot Liberty Valance.
Vertigo.
Rear window.
Cat on a hot tin roof.
Me. And you. And everyone we know.
Fantastic, Mr. Fox.
The right stuff.
Tough guys don't dance. Point Break.
Vanilla Sky.
Full Metal Jacket.
Good morning, Vietnam! The Englishman who went up a hill but came down a mountain.
Clear and present danger.
A bridge too far.
I love you, man.
I love you, Beth Cooper.
I love you, Philip Morris! Make it break!
Wild at heart.
Fried green tomatoes.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Death proof. This is Spinal Tap.
Kingdom of Heaven.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Any given Sunday.
Are we there yet?
Dude, where's my car?
I know who killed me.
Demolition Man.
Total Recall.
Tell him Willie Boy is here!
We bought a zoo!
Or my mom will shoot!
First blood.
Do the right thing.
Free Willy!
Layer cake.
Snatch.
The Italian job.
Playing the game.
Lethal Weapon. The Big Lebowski.
Face.
Sleepless in Seattle?
Home Alone.
Evil under the sun.
A perfect world of the law.
You only live twice.
For your eyes only.
A view.
To a kill.
The living daylights.
License to kill.
The world is not enough.
Die another day.
Our idiot brother.
Clueless the hard way.
She's all that.
Failure to launch.
Chinatown. As good as it gets.
Premium Rush.
Back to the future.
The Godfather. The Exorcist.
The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
Bring me the head of Alfredo Garcia.
The man who shook the hand of Vicente Fernandez.
The eagle has landed.
Law-abiding citizen.
Salmon fishing in Yemen.
Deep Blue Sea.
Inherent vice. Sound of my voice.
I hope they serve beer now. Hobo with a shotgun. Love says, this is hell.
They shoot horses, don't they?
My son, what have you done?
Truly, madly, deeply.
Paper towns?
Taxi driver.
Raging Bull. The Wolf of Wall Street.
All that jazz.
Definitely. Maybe.
Trouble with the curve.
Maximum overdrive.
Vertical limit.
Sudden death.
Con Air. Rush Hour. Training Day.
Cashback.
Unthinkable. Superman Returns.
Eye in the sky.
Saving Private Ryan.
A million ways to die in the West.
Hell or high water.
They came together.
Sleeping with other people.
Let's be cops.
Just go with it.
Around the world in 80 days.
Around the world in 80 days.
True grit.
True grit.
Assassin's Creed.
What women want. A room with a view.
Moonlight. Rogue One.
Fantastic beasts and where to find them.
The Imitation Game.
The Departed.
Spies like us?
City slickers.
White men can't jump.
The Squid and the Whale.
Chasing Amy.
Big Two Gray.
Gone, baby. Gone.
Good night, and good luck.
American History. X.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence.